Hey guys.
Hey.
We are S&M, and we are back with I Bet You Think This Podcast Is About You. And if you think this podcast is about you, it's because you're a narcissist or a sociopath or borderline personality disorder or some other sort of antisocial personality disorder. This show is not about you. It's about us and all of the other people in the lives of these sort of cluster B personality disorder individuals and how we have survived and lived to tell the tale about living with these people. So today is episode 6. And before I introduce the topic, Em and I, my lovely co-host, who is also not a mental health expert, forgot to mention that. Right. We are still not mental health experts. Maybe we will be soon. But we have decided to have a new little topic on here just to warm ourselves up because we do this off podcast sometimes. So, hey, we'll just bring it to our audience. It's called the Daily High-Low. So, Em, what was your high and what was your low today?
So my high hasn't happened yet.
Oh.
It hasn't happened yet because today...
So optimistic.
Today was so many lows. Like, here's one and here's another. And I was like, is there... Well,
I know I got the texts there.
Yeah, you did got a lot of text messages. So I could say that my high is the fact that you answered my pathetic text messages. That would be one of the highs. But okay, so my low is that I'm wearing a thong today and I'm really pissed off about that. I normally don't like to wear one at all. And I'm mad because I'm wearing one. So that's actually my low. Is
that's
that I'm wearing
your low?
a thong. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been irritated about it all day.
Well, you're wearing Spanx.
I know.
Why would you even go with underwear?
Well, I am wearing one, so I wish it was just thrown off. I would say that
you could take it off.
I could take it off. Okay. I know I could say that, but it's on. It's here. It's with me. My high is going to happen a little bit later when I get home because I have a jar of chocolate frosting, and I'm going to probably eat the whole thing.
You should.
I thought about, like, should I use something with it, or should I just take a spoon and just put it in my mouth? I think I'm just going to open it up and just eat it.
You can do it with your fingers,
It's
too.
organic. Maybe that helps.
You can do it with your fingers.
Oh, I could.
That would be a
That would be, that would be like, oh my God.
What is happening?
After this day, I'm actually just going to use my fingers to eat chocolate frosting. Probably start crying, too. All right. How about you? How about you?
Okay. So my high today is I decided to declare the summer of 2019 the summer of me. I know that sounds super narcissistic, but someone's got to focus on me for a change, right? And I made this most ridiculously awesome Summer of Me playlist. I'll share it with you.
By the way, I thought you were going to say that you made a vision board.
Only you make vision boards.
I totally thought you were going to say you made a vision board for
you would fucking die if I made a vision board.
Okay, sorry.
I'm not the vision board Kenny girl.
I know.
Well, maybe someday.
Sure.
So my high is my Spotify playlist.
Yeah.
Named after the Summer of Me, and it's amazing. It really is so good. And then my low is this is terrible. I have this personal trainer. This is a long story. I'm going to make it short. I have a personal trainer that I signed up with, and it's like a studio, so they give you the newest dude, and so I just get stuck with this dude, and he's old, okay, and very fit, but very, very old. And it started last night. I have to show you this text exchange, but last night I was like, can I get in on a Wednesday instead of Thursday? Because I have a conflict on Thursday. And he started flirting with me over text, reading crazy shit into an emoji.
Why does everyone flirt with you? I swear.
Because I'm bubbly, goddammit. So this dude, I'll show you these. They're fucking awful. And I was like, you do know that I'm way younger than you, right? Do I look old? So I go into personal training this morning, and he had his full-on flirt on because I was his only client today, and he was just like, we're friends, right? You're going to call me? And he kept calling me girly because he knows it gets to me, and I'm like, oh my God.
Is this ever going to end?
I know. And then he was trying to feel my quads because he said they were tighter. I was like, this is something. So that was my low. I was like, that you think that you're in my league Even though you're full of muscles, you're still old, like 60
had to
something.
deal with that.
I know.
Yeah. Oh.
So that was my low.
Okay.
So now on to our show topic, which I'm very interested in, and I found it compelling. So recently, Em and I have heard the Terry Gross NPR interview with Howard Stern. Yeah. So, and then there was a Washington Post article as well about his new book, Howard Stern Comes Again. How predictable is that for a title? But it was really, really interesting. So this episode, number 6, is called I Forgive You, Howard Stern. Kinda. So yeah, let's talk about how we felt historically about this famous character, Howard Stern. I'm calling him a character, even though he's a real dude, because I feel like it was all a persona. So anyway, how do you feel, Em?
I remember when I first heard him and saw him, and I was kind of like, holy shit. Like, who is this guy? And it was always like I had mixed feelings because I did, and we've talked about this, I like that he doesn't give a shit. He's super transparent. He just sort of says what is on his mind. And there's a part of me that was sort of drawn to that because it was very refreshing. I mean, I grew up in a very strict home, and you just things nothing was really talked about ever in terms of every subject you can think of. So I was sort of like, wow, he's just sort of saying things. So I was even drawn to him as a listener from time to time. But then I was also equally as disgusted because he's just very obviously narcissistic and misogynistic and treating women like crap, So I don't know. There's some things about him but the thing is, whenever anyone takes people and then uses them to make themselves look good, or in his case, and I think he admitted to that in the interview, if I'm not mistaken, that he basically used people to make himself look good and to make his ratings go up.
Right.
So I was like, I don't respect that. I don't respect that.
Yeah. So I always had, I was very ambivalent about Howard Stern because I did listen to him because I number one, I am all for being open about sexuality, and I think, you're same as you. I don't think it's appropriate or healthy to pretend like sex doesn't exist and people don't think about it and all that kind of stuff. But the way he went about doing it was horribly misogynistic and gross, just gross. Yeah, right. There were so many times that I was like, I just can't listen to this anymore. It's disgusting. It's sick.
Yeah.
And also, Howard, you're not attractive.
No.
So I love that you have this show because now you're getting women that you would have never dreamed of getting. And a tiny penis that he talks about all the time. I'm like, okay, right? You're 6'10", with a tiny dick. Okay, well, good thing you have a show. But he also treats not just the women that came on his show, which some of them he treated better than other people. But he saw his listeners as basically a means to an end. And he saw the way he treated his employees on air, which I know is all shtick, but what a dick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had Gary and he had his engineer, and he was just, he would berate the way that they talked and the way that they dressed and their families and even his guests. He had this whole thing with David Letterman because he was told something in confidence about David Letterman's wife, and he mentions it on the air.
Ooh,
and it was just a dick move, right? And of course he has all of these men in his audience who are, the kind of guys who never grew up and still think they're in high school or middle school, and they're just laughing him on and pretending it's this great thing. So yeah, back in the day, I kind of listened. I actually got sick of it. There was a period of time where I listened to it, and then it just got to be too much. And when he moved from terrestrial radio onto Sirius, I stopped. I just didn't pay any attention to him.
He's just sort of this big ass bully.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of all he is.
Right. And so then he goes on Terry Gross, and I actually got a text message from someone who has listened to the podcast, and they're like, oh my God, you got to listen to this interview because he literally goes on and says he's a narcissist. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to listen because I love, oh my God, Terry Gross is the opposite of Howard Stern, right? I mean, this is like oil and water. I love her. She's like my spirit animal.
Yeah.
I wish that Terry Gross would do like transcendental meditation guided like audio because her voice is just so relaxing.
She is so good. And you can just tell that she runs that interview. Like no matter, if you can keep Howard Stern on a leash, you're a good interviewer.
Oh, for sure.
She did so good.
So she has him on her show Fresh Air on NPR. And there's actually 2 parts to this interview, and she did this amazing job. But more so, like the more surprising thing was he comes on, and I haven't heard this show in probably 10 years, and Howard Stern's not the same guy, or at least doesn't seem to be the same person. And so I sent it to you, and the conversation started like, are we wrong? Can these narcissists actually get better? Can they heal? So that is sort of the quandary that I find myself in after listening to that. And I'm going to tell you, I think maybe a little. I think the answer is maybe a little. Do I think that he is better? No. I also am not 100% convinced that he's a full-blown like narcissistic personality disorder. Right. Everyone has narcissistic traits, and he was making money from them, so he sort of amplified them, but I don't know if he was a full-blown narc.
I know.
So what do you think?
I think he was on the spectrum. But I don't think that he probably would have been fully diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. I don't know.
Well, at one point he said he was diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder, which is a form of narcissistic personality disorder, I believe. But he talks about his childhood with Terry Gross, and I remember when he would talk about that on his show, and it was fucked up. And what's super weird is his childhood is like basically identical to my ex's. And I'm like, holy crap. So you have this mom, right, who's always sad and had this very traumatic upbringing herself. Her family of origin was crappy, and what she doesn't want is history to repeat itself. So she wants him to behave himself and be a good boy and meet all these expectations. And then he has this dad who works like a workaholic, and he's basically never good enough for his dad, right?
Yep.
I'm like, well, now we know the recipe for raising a narcissist.
That was like, one of my exes too, exactly what you just said. That's how he was raised too.
Yeah.
That his mom was just like that. And he was almost like the caregiver for his mom. And I think Howard mentions that in the interview.
Right.
Too.
Right.
That it was like he felt responsible for making her feel okay and for making her feel better. And with one of my exes, he would always tell me that about his mom. Even now, he still feels responsible for like, she kind of goes to him. She went to him as like the father figure. Like
really?
Because his father was abusive in every way. Also told him he would never be enough. So he of course he's a very high achiever and has been very successful because of that goal. But he even to this day his mom kind of goes to him, and he feels responsible for making her feel good and happy, which is so fucked up.
Yeah. So
it's really sad.
I had the same sort of experience with a dude because it was weird. He would tell me all the time, mostly about his mother and how her dad was an alcoholic and like raging alcoholic. And so she was so concerned that her kids don't become alcoholics. So they always had to have a job. Like they were like 8 years old and had to have a paper route. Like you have to have a job and you have to work and you can't be a ne'er-do-well sort of a thing. And the weird thing is that pressure, I think also makes people into alcoholics, right? Like there are functioning alcoholics out there. Like you can have a high achieving alcoholic or drug addict or whatever it is. I'm like, there has to be some sort of happy medium. And I think when you have these children and you're like, nothing's ever good enough and you have to be perfect in every way and you have to make me happy and you have to make me proud. You have to make me proud. Like it's all or nothing. It becomes this all or nothing bargain where you have to be the best and the most successful because otherwise you're going to let your parents down. And Howard had that. It was interesting. He was talking about how he would go to work with his father and watched him like basically worship these on-air personalities. And he's like, that's how I get my father's attention. And then he spent the first couple of decades of being on the air denying the fact that he was trying to impress his father.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, but the thing that I witnessed when I listened to this show, back in the day, is just this utter lack of any empathy, like really running roughshod over everyone in the audience. You know what I mean?
He didn't care.
No, not at all.
Mm-mm.
I mean, and just, if you listen to some of those interviews, like the guest hardly even talks, right?
Right.
And it's just him, like, just rapid firing these questions at the guests, and they're like stammering, and everybody's laughing, and it's hysterical, and then they leave or they walk out. I just thought it was odd. So I have listened to some more of the recent interviews, and they're totally different. They're more like Larry King-ish,
Didn't he say that he would do, and I know that you research your person that you're going to interview anyways, but didn't he say that he would like intentionally find their weak points?
Yep.
And just kind of shock them with that, because I mean, it's like shock radio is pretty much what he was known for. But why I wonder if he would for sure be a narc is because he's never like apologized. I mean, he didn't really seem like sorry for anything.
No. So that's the weird thing.
Like,
It was robotic, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, this is what I did, and then I went to therapy. And let's talk about the therapy for just 1 second, right?
Okay.
Because, maybe if individuals with cluster B personality disorders like his may have been, I don't know, even if they can heal and recover and become an empathetic person or a pseudo-empathetic person, I think it's going to require so much therapy that it's really sort of cost and time prohibitive for normal people, right? So this guy's telling me that, or telling Terry that he goes to therapy every single day. And he does transcendental meditation every single day. That's like 3 hours plus drive time since New York's the commute. That's like half of a day. That's half a day.
Right.
No one has the time or money in a normal environment to spend working on yourself like that.
Right.
And I mean, it's sad. Maybe they should, but in a normal scenario, in a normal setting, I don't see that really being a feasible type thing. But more to your point, I think as I listen to that interview, it's sort of, I say the things that I have to say to seem and sound empathetic because I had a whole lot of bad shit happen to me because I was a dick.
Right.
Right. So, my wife left me. He has 3 daughters who are now adults. Right. And he talked about how he was concerned about their perception of him. Well, no shit. Yeah, right. Like, you never thought about that when they were little? Because I would have at least thought about when my 2-year-old was going to be 22 and she listened to this interview, she might not be so impressed with Dad. Right? But, he's talking about like how he has this empathy and how he's concerned about how he's perceived now. And I'm like, it's kind of still almost the same thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So also, I'm not 100% sure that he was full blown. I mean, so did you hear the part of the interview where he said he never cheated on his wife?
Yeah, I was like, wow.
So
that's interesting. And I wonder if that's because of what I read, that he had a secondary trait of like some sort of dependency, something. I don't remember exactly what that is. So maybe because he felt, I don't know. I'm completely speculating, but I can't believe he didn't cheat.
Well, and here's the thing, right? That could also just be a lie.
It could, but why would you even bring it up?
Yeah, I mean, now that his wife left him, but he still has adult kids who are listening, so maybe he's just going to deny it the rest of his life. But,
doesn't he seem like someone who would want to show that off, though?
Yeah.
I'm so amazing that all these women want me. I cheated, and because I just am so irresistible.
Well, yeah, exactly. And he's a celebrity, and those people are starting to crawl out of the woodwork. So if he had cheated and had some side piece going on, she probably would have come out and asked for $100,000 or something by now. Maybe she has. Maybe there's a litany of them like Trump, all backed up with non-disclosure agreements.
Gross.
That Trump only paid that girl like $85,000. What was it? It was unreal.
There's not enough money in the world.
Well, I mean, I probably wouldn't brag about banging Donald Trump either. But once he became president, I would have monetized the hell out of that. Good job. I mean, let's be frank. But he says at least that he never cheated. So if he never cheated, that really doesn't sort of fit the mold of the typical narcissist who is basically a scavenger,
Right.
right? He just bangs anything that's willing. So that was interesting. He also talked about pornography. And it was so weird. That interview was so, this is our favorite word, weird.
Weird.
We're going to have a drinking game where you can listen to our podcast and take a shot every time you hear the word weird.
P.S. You'll be hammered in 5 minutes.
I know. It's going to be great. That's going to be a high level for sure.
It's going to be high.
But he talks about pornography, and in one moment, he talks about this interview he had with Amy Poehler and how they talked about how pornography is desensitizing. And it is, right?
It is, yeah.
And how he's concerned about how easy it is for these boys and children who have, devices to just access pornography, and how it has to desensitize them, and it has to. There's no way it can't.
Right,
I mean, he's right. He's right about that.
He is right.
There's no way that you can be exposed to that before your first sexual experience ever even happens, and then go into your first sexual experience like you're going to be some sort of like stud. And you're gonna perform like your porn star people. That has to be just, I can't even imagine being a kid nowadays.
Yeah. It's too easy for them to access it.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, that's really deep and very insightful. And then he literally goes, don't get me wrong, I still watch porn like 2 or 3 times a week.
I know. I was like, what do you think? Again, with the kinda. Where you almost have us and then you're like, okay.
I know, right? So,
okay. No.
I don't know what that is. So,
I don't know either.
And why I had to offer that up.
I'm sorry, he's 65, right? Ew.
Yeah. I know.
Oh.
Well, that's the other comment. So the comment that I actually wrote down, because I was floored by it, because this is anti-narcissistic, right? Like, this is like a guy who's kind of getting it, or just repeating what his therapist said to him because he goes every day, right? But he said, if I had become a 65-year-old guy fawning over women, it would have been sad and pathetic.
Amen.
No shit,
Howard
dude.
Stern.
Yep. That guy. You're going to be that old man who's like grabbing ass in the nursing home and just grossing people out because you're just wrinkly and bleh. Like, you know what I mean? So he at least recognizes that he is getting older, because a lot of narcissists will not even admit that they're getting older.
They're terrified of that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, my ex wanted to hang out at fucking college bars. I was like, dude,
wait,
why?
What? Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's like, just couldn't accept the fact that these college kids are like younger than his own kids. Like, ew. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, at least he recognizes it or pretends to recognize that. I'm not 100% sure which it is. And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I do.
I do too.
But then he would keep saying these things that would like contradict what he had previously said. I was really compelled, though, when I listened to some of the interviews that he talked about in this book, because I listened to the one with Ellen DeGeneres and the one with Sia. And they were really good. And Sia, I guess, afterwards said, I mean, she like started crying and talking about her childhood. And he asked very appropriate and probing questions. It was a really good interview. And she said, I opened up, I felt really valued. And I was like, holy shit, right? Like a narcissist made you feel valued? That's impossible.
But the only thing that I think about with that is he just might I don't know. I am giving him the benefit of the doubt, but what if he just learned, he's smart. I mean, what if he just learned how to make his guest feel valued?
Or maybe like, that's sort of the love bombing kind of stage.
Kind
of.
I
get you. I understand you. Fuck, I know how that feels, right?
Yeah, me too. I don't know.
I just can't decide if I really hook, line, and sinker believe that he's some sort of reformed narcissist.
Well, who needs to be interviewed? His daughters and his wife. I mean, the people that he's with all the time.
Yeah.
Those people are like, employees. Or
his employees. Yeah. I mean, I can't decide if A, if it's possible, and B, if he's really done it. Because, so, okay. I was in therapy this morning. I'll just reveal that because, I like to work myself a whole bunch, I guess, I was at a personal trainer and then I was at therapy. It was a great day. It was like my spa day. And so I actually started talking to him about this interview and he had heard it. And he's like, yeah, he goes, it might be one of those things. He goes, how like an alcoholic always has to have an addiction. So if you go to an AA meeting, they're smoking like chimneys. And they're pounding terrible coffee. Right? And I'm like, I have never been to an AA meeting, but that's interesting. I think I've seen him on TV a few times. And he's like, yeah. And he said, so sometimes when you give something up, especially when people have a personality disorder, they replace it with something else. And I am not diagnosing Bill Clinton right now, but we'd had that discussion about Bill Clinton. So if you knew like historical Bill Clinton, eating at McDonald's and, chasing women, which is, it's true, right? And that reveals nothing about my politics, by the way, because I still love the guy's politics. But, chasing women, eating way too much junk food, and he was just, crazy out of control and probably narcissistic to some degree, right?
Probably.
And so he has a heart attack. Bill Clinton has a heart attack, and he goes full-blown vegan, right? And I don't know, maybe stop chasing women. I don't know. He sounds like he must have because we would have heard about it, right? So now he is literally like the fucking polar opposite of who he used to be. And he brags about it, which Howard Stern's kind of doing too right now, right? So now he's talking about how great it is to be a vegan and how great he feels. And I'm like, it's kind of the same thing, right? It's just two extremes. Like you're still now you're narcissistic about being a vegan and not chasing women, and is Howard Stern being narcissistic about being empathetic? Like, is that possible?
Yeah, because do you have to write a book about it? Do you have to go on air and be interviewed? I mean, those are all ego boosts.
Yeah.
So it's like you could just make these changes and really get out of the radio altogether. Or, I don't know. Just something to think about, like, because he's still getting recognition and he's still the center of attention, like all these things that narcs like to be.
Yeah, and you do see that every once in a while. You do see celebrities just fall off the face of planet Earth.
Yeah.
Right? And you wonder if that is maybe they had too much.
Well, either way, I hope that it leads to, like, because he is, I think, an icon of toxic masculinity, and a lot of guys look up to him for his toxic kind of things. And I hope that he now can be sort of a leader and we can start to see a shift in the culture.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Toxic masculinity. You think that's, I wonder if that's even possible.
Well, I think that it can shift a little bit. Like, it's little things. This is like a huge, huge, huge thing. I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime. But if there's little baby shifts, in the workplace or wherever, it can't go on like this.
Well, and it's interesting because I've watched, we've talked about this before, the Me Too movement. And these women come out and they start sharing their stories about, these, men who are celebrities, or not even just men in their life who have assaulted them or made them feel uncomfortable or made them feel somehow less than. And in some way it has reduced toxic masculinity, but the guys who respond to that respond hardcore. So now you have here comes the Me Too movement creeping up, and then here comes Donald Trump. And grabbing women by the pussy. They're kicking back so hard.
Yes. Because the problem, okay, I hashtag Me Too on Facebook like everyone else, but here's the issue with how that was done. All that men saw it as, and I talked to one of my this amazing guy. He is the furthest thing from toxic masculinity.
You should date him.
He explained... I'd say more about that, but okay. He'd be a great person to date. He explained to me the movement from his perspective. And here's the thing about the Me Too is basically how a lot of men felt is holy fuck. It was just like everyone pointing fingers, pointing fingers. You suck. And what ends up happening almost subconsciously is they're defensive. They put up their defense and they're like, well, and so it just became, what happened is we just sort of started a battle. And so I think, and what he had said to me he was like, I remember being in 4th grade sports and I would want to cry or have an emotion. And I was constantly told, and I've read this and I've heard this from other guys, you do not have, the only emotion you can show is anger. That's the only one that's acceptable for men.
Right.
And so he's like, here's the thing with your movement. And he's like, what do we do though? Like, we don't even know how to fully process emotions. When we feel anger, we don't know if that's shame. We don't know if that's guilt. We don't know if that's hurt or regret or sadness. We didn't learn how to process those emotions. And I personally can somewhat understand that because I didn't grow up in a home where I was basically told to not have emotions either. There wasn't time for emotions. So I get what he's saying. So he's like, there's no environment. Now that what do we do with our emotions? And there's no safe place because you're still a freaking pussy if you have emotions. So it's like, what do we do? And he really went on for about like half an hour. And I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Answer? Did he have an answer?
No.
Oh, wow. He must be woke.
He's
most
a
men
great
have answers
guy
for everything.
He's a really good guy. So I'm just like,
Is he ugly?
think,
Why won't you date him? I'm just kidding.
No, he's very cute. He's a little cutie. Okay, but no, so I guess I feel like that's just, I don't know.
Well, I know, but you said it. You said it's a battle, and it became a battle.
Yeah.
But don't you think it was a battle that had to happen?
Yes,
right?
Yes, it did. It had to. What else were we gonna do to start this and to have these conversations? At least now, he and I wouldn't have had that conversation 5 years ago. We just would have talked about, like, I don't know, a baseball game or something. Like, we wouldn't have had that conversation. But now it is, because it is a movement, regardless of how it was started or how it played out. It's now becoming a topic of conversation. Right. But the toxic masculinity guys, oh shit, they hate it.
So where do you think the battle's going? I mean, it's a little bit of a tangent, but where do you think the battle's going to end? Where is it going to go? Like, at the end of this, do you think there's going to be like a female version of Howard Stern on the air, like rating dick size? And
no, I mean, that's the opposite. We don't want that. Like, then what are we doing? We're doing the same thing that they did, you know? So I'm not really too sure, but I think that just the whole equality, not even really that, but that's part of it. Men have to stop seeing women as beneath them and as objects for them to just be utilized for their pleasure. I mean, it's just like the way that they view women needs to just be different. And that starts in the home. That's cultural. That's like, there's so many, it's very multifactorial, but
I would really like
need
to
a female president. That'd be freaking great.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is there's so many women that do great things and they never get recognized. They never get, they don't. Even I was listening to an interview on Melinda Gates. Oprah was interviewing her. She's actually my girl crush right now. She's so cool.
Ooh,
Bill Gates' wife.
Oh, yeah.
She's awesome. And like you never hear of her. She's just as smart as Bill Gates. Like they met working at the same company. They're just, but So I'm really, and he was so awesome with her at like he was just so great with her in terms of how he supports her and he's like her biggest fan. That's healthy. Like that's cool. They literally see each other as equals. But,
the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
I had to
That's the only way I know her name.
I had to find that though, like it wasn't out there. I had to like search for it.
Oprah's a badass.
She is so badass.
Nobody ever hears about Stedman. Is Stedman even a thing? Are they still together?
God. They'll be together forever.
Really? Do you know this? They're really together?
I actually have a minor obsession with her, so I do have inside intel that they'll be together forever.
Really?
Totally kidding. I don't know. But I do. I'm obsessed with her.
Rock on Oprah for not marrying Stedman, by the way.
Right.
God.
Right. She doesn't need to.
I know, right?
She's like, I'm good.
She's like,
I'm good.
You just behave yourself or you're off the ranch.
Literally, it is a ranch.
I know. All right. So we decided as well, I think you just revealed yours though. We were going to have to end our episode with a little female empowerment and talk about our girl crushes. And girl crush means these are people I would love to hang out with and I want to be BFFs with. So this will be our open invitation to all, 10 of our listeners. If anybody knows Melinda Gates, Em wants to hang out with her so bad.
I want to interview her and hang out.
What would you do? What would you do on your girl date with Melinda?
Oh my gosh. Well, we probably would start out with like going to have some coffee. And then I would want to take her to a hot yoga class so that we could like sweat and then get like super present. And then I would just basically like hold her hand and walk down the street and ask her a lot of questions and make her really uncomfortable.
Oh, nice.
And then I would probably take her out to dinner.
Oh, she might pay. She has more money than you.
I would actually make her pay for everything for the next year of my life.
Just to be BFFs. All right. So I have so many girl crushes, but my girl crush, just because it's appropriate for the topic today, is Terry Gross. I love her so much. She is like, have you seen her?
I don't think so.
She looks like a third grade teacher.
Which is even better that she's the one I interviewed.
I know. And she knows, like, she's one of those people who knows a little bit about everything, which I've been accused of as well. I'm often accused of having a tiny bit of knowledge about every topic.
You did say something in like a different language the other day, and I'm like, what does that mean? And you're like, oh, it means this. I'm like, how would the average person know that?
I have weird knowledge. It's like it's just, it's like a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I don't have any in-depth knowledge about many things.
You're like, actually, I know nothing, but
but I know a tiny bit about everything. Yeah, so I think if I had a girl date with Terry Gross, if you're listening, Terry, I'm serious. I'll come to Philly because she's in Philly, and we'll go out for cheesesteaks, and then I just want to take her to like a pub and play trivia. I want to go to like trivia night and see if I can kick Terry's ass playing trivia because she knows a lot about everything, and I know a little about everything, but it would still be like, my heart is like pitter pattering. I'm so excited because wouldn't that be so fun?
Your palms sweating.
I know. Don't. I know. So we would hang out, and Terry, we could play trivia and eat peanuts and drink Michelob Ultra. That's what I would do.
Michelob Ultra.
I was like, it's less carbs. She's tiny. She doesn't need more carbs.
Oh.
So thanks for joining us today. If you haven't, go back and listen to some of our other episodes. Our last one about the patriarchy, where we talk about some of these topics a little more in depth. So check out our Instagram and our Twitter. We also have a Twitter feed now. And leave us a message or DM us, and we will respond.